Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's class, 25 sketchbook prompts to start 2025. I am your instructor, Adrienne Hodge, and so excited to be starting 2025 with this class on sketchbook prompts. We did the same thing in 2024, and it was really fun, and everyone enjoyed it. So I thought I would do that again. So you should have a list of the 25 sketchbook prompts that were included along with the supply list. And Rich has the handout. He's dropping it in the chat right now if you missed it. And if you're watching later on YouTube, you can just click underneath the video where it says see more in the description of the video, and it will list the supply list along with the handout, the PDF, and you can just download that at that time. So there are 25 sketchbook prompts, but we only have 90 minutes today, so we will not be uh, doing all 25 sketchbook prompts together. So the prompts that are highlighted in color in the document, or the ones that are typed in different colors, those are the ones that we will be focusing on tonight. And I chose 4 of those. Some of them will only take us a few minutes. One of them in particular is going to take a little longer than others. So I wanted to allow enough time for all 4 of those that I chose, and that goes for the entire list. Some of them might only take you a few minutes, and some of them might take you, an hour or more. So it'll just be up to you. And if we have time, we'll do more than those 4. So if we cover all 4 of those and we still have time left in the class, then we'll pick another one. We'll take a vote in the chat and see, or whoever responds first. If we get a vote for the same one, we'll see which one we'll do together. I have a couple off the top of my head that I think would be fun to do together if we have time. Okay, so I'm going to switch to my tabletop view and go over supplies, and we'll get started. But actually, one more thing before I do that, we have a couple more classes coming up in January, or I do with Michael's. I always say we. And one of them is drawing teeth, and the other one is abstract study. Mixed media and abstract study, or abstract studies in gouache and mixed media, I believe is the title. And I'm excited about those 2 classes. And then I also have a independent class from Michael's that I am starting up again, similar to my draw club that I was doing last year on Saturday mornings. So it'll still be on Saturday mornings, but I'm calling it Online Sketchbook Meetup, because I want to get some mixed media in there. So I don't want it to just be drawing. So we'll be doing some watercolor and gouache and mixed media stuff. And if you click on my link tree that Rich will drop in the chat, you can find the link to sign up for that in my online shop. Or if you're watching later on YouTube, you can just search my name, Adrienne Hodge, and Linktree should go right to it. You can also search Big Cartel is the online shop that I use. Okay, so yeah, let me switch to my tabletop view and we will go over supplies and get started here. Don't forget to tag your work with the hashtags Make It With Michaels or Michaels Classes. You can follow me on Instagram at ADHodge. And here's some of my work using calligraphy ink on my business cards here. I'm also on Facebook, Adrienne Hodge Fine Art. Okay, so this class is very straightforward. We're just using Sketchbook and some markers. So I've got this packet of Artist Loft dual tip Fineliner markers from Michaels. I've also got some, oh, excuse me, bumping my camera. Got some Artist Loft sketching pencils. So you might want those along with an eraser, but I'm going to be doing a lot of sketching with just the pen and markers only. So I've also got a set of the Artist Loft illustration pens here. So all Artist Loft supplies from Michaels, and you might want an eraser if you're using sketching pencils to get started. And you can go at your own pace with all of these. If I go too fast, know that there will be a YouTube recording. You can always go back, pause, rewind, etc. One supply that I put on the supply list outside of Artist Loft was this jelly roll pen, so that white jelly roll pen, so we can add some embellishments to some of these. Okay, so let's look at this. Oh yeah, and then the sketchbook that I'm using is the Artist Loft drawing pad here, 9 by 12. Okay, so let's look at the handout together real quick here, and we'll talk about these examples we're going to do together. I did not provide reference images for any of these prompts, so we're going to be using our own references. So there, I'll give a little pause in between each prompt so that you can find some things, or if you want to go ahead and gather some things now before we get started, that might be a good idea if you haven't already looked at these beforehand. So we're doing number one, which is 3 blind shoes. I give them all really cutesy names this year. So we're going to do 3 blind contour drawings of our shoes using primary colors. So I already got those out here, my red, yellow, blue markers from this dual tip Artist Loft set here. And we're going to start with the yellow, the lightest color first, and then we're going to do red and then blue, or maybe blue and then red. Yeah, looks like I did blue next. So then when they kind of overlap, you might see a little bit of green or maybe some purple effect where the colors overlap, or some orange. And that can be fun. And I'll talk about what blind contours are for those of you who don't know. You could also use colored pencils. I put colored pencils on the supply list as well. Just saw that in my parentheses and remembered that as well. But I'm going to be using markers for all of the prompts here. So that's the first one. And I drew my daughter's Converse tennis shoe 3 times for this one, but I'm going to be using my boots this time that I have over here on the floor. So that's what I'll be looking at for the first prompt. So if you want to grab a pair of shoes or one shoe, we'll just draw the same shoe 3 times. That would be good. Okay, and then the next one we're going to do together is Zoom studies. So we're going to find a photo in your camera roll, or maybe 2 to 3 photos. You could do it with the same photo though, 3 different ways. And we're going to zoom in and crop the photo until the subject matter is unrecognizable. And I can show you my examples here in just a moment if once we get started. And then we're going to sketch 2 to 3 thumbnail sketches of the shapes, forms, texture, and value in the cropped photo. So we're not going to worry about making it look exactly like what's in the photo. So, because we want to make it look unrecognizable. And then we're going to add embellishments with that white jelly roll pen if we feel like it needs it. You don't have to, that's optional. All right, so that's the next one. And then after that, we're going to do prompt number 3, which is the negative space in your pocket. And we're going to remove all of the contents of your pockets, or maybe your purse, or maybe what you have there on your desk. And we're going to, it might be helpful to take a photograph of the objects and make the photo black and white. I'll show you my example in just a moment. Or you could just draw the stuff directly on the table if your brain works that way. So I've got my keys here and a pen and then a little notebook that I was carrying in my little purse, and looked for the negative space of those things. And then we're going to fill it in. We can do it both ways. Either you can fill in the negative space or you can fill in the positive space. It's up to you. All right. And then the last prompt that I have for us to do together is number 12. It's the limited color nature study. And so we're going to choose 2 to 3 colors or multiple shades of each color. So I chose pink and purple, and then I got a little bit of this peachy orange color in there as well. And we're going to illustrate a leaf, a rock, or another object from nature using only these colors. So I drew this little acorn here using just those colors. And as I'm talking, I realized I forgot to mention one unofficial supply list item that should be easy to grab. I've been doing this a lot lately. We're going to use a playing card, or maybe if you have Post-its or a business card, something like that laying around, you can use that to trace your little box that we can draw all of these prompts in. Not all of them have to be like this. Like with the shoes, I'm not going to do this, but with these other prompts, I will be doing that. And that's a little trick that I learned from one of my good teacher friends, Jenny Granberry, who has a lot of awesome videos on YouTube as well. All right, and then I'm just going to pull up my examples of, so this is the negative space image that I used, my keys and the pen and the notepad, and then I just made it black and white to help me see the space around those objects. So that is that. And then here I did take a picture of the acorn on a table just so that I could get some dramatic lighting on it. And I will probably use this photo again just because my desk right now has the ring light that's kind of washing out the light. So I want that heavy shadow. So if you want to snap a picture of a leaf or a rock or some item like that for yourself, that would be a good idea. And then these are the 3 photos that I'm going to use today. I'm going to use different ones than I did last time. So this was a photograph of a parking lot that I took a picture of my daughter sitting at a cafe the other day with the parking lot behind her. And so I just zoomed in on the trees and a car in the background. And I thought there were some interesting colors and textures and shapes of light in that photograph that could be fun to try to illustrate. And then this was from that same day, sitting at this cafe with my 2 kids, and my son was wearing a red hoodie with yellow on it. And these are my jeans that were right next to him. He was sitting really close to me. So I thought that's kind of fun. I got the primary colors there, and there's some interesting texture on my jeans that I can play around with. And then this was from a walk in the woods. There's an abandoned car and a bicycle. It's very creepy. And I'm zoomed in on the back of the car and the bicycle. And so it's pretty unrecognizable in some ways. I can tell it's a bicycle, but we'll play around with stuff like that. So find some photos. Don't overthink it for those. And we're going to do the shoes first, since that's the easiest one. And I'll pause in between and ask people to share out. So you'll have an opportunity to grab other things, or maybe if you change your mind as we go about what you're choosing right now, but best not to overthink it. And I would say the same for all of these prompts. The whole point of these prompts is to get this sketchbook practice rolling in a way that makes us have a satisfying page in our sketchbook, makes us check the box like, oh, I did some art practice today and I feel good about that. Okay, I'm going to move this sketchbook aside and get my more unused sketchbook out here. We'll get started on this prompt with the shoes. Okay, so blind contour sketches, if you are unaware, are drawings that we do without looking at our paper. So it's totally fine if you glance down and look at your paper. Really, the 2 rules of not looking at your paper and trying to keep it one continuous line are both there to keep you from getting too distracted by this exercise, because if you look at it, you're likely to judge it. And if you judge it, you're likely to maybe have a reaction to it. And then that reaction might throw you off. But when you really dedicate yourself to keeping it blind, and that you're not looking at your paper and you're only looking at the subject, you end up with this really fun, playful, whimsical line quality that is really great. And you also get pure communication from your eyes to your drawing hand. I see somebody saying, sorry about my cat passing by. Oh, so I thought I was reading that as like, is it okay to, I was like, yes, draw your cat passing by. That would be fun. It doesn't have to be shoes. Uh, yeah, so we'll just look at our subject and we'll draw it 3 times. We'll start with yellow and then we'll overlap with blue and then red. And since we're starting with the lightest color first, it'll have a fun little effect there. All right. And I've had several other classes where we've done blind contour drawings together, and it's one of my favorite things to do. It's also a great warm up to get started. Okay, so I've got my yellow marker here, and I'm going to use the brush tip. And I've got my boot down there on the floor, and y'all are just going to have to trust that I am not looking at my paper. I am looking at my shoe. And I'm trying to keep it one continuous line. And I'm looking at all of the lines. So like every little wrinkle and fold and detail. Might even go back up here and get some of the all these little studs all over my boots. One of my buddies at the art school where I teach was saying these looked like elf combat boots the other day, and I liked it. Might be kind of hard to see since they're in yellow. And I'll admit I am cheating a little bit and glancing at it now as I'm doing all those little circles. But I was pretty blind for those other ones. Okay, so that's the yellow one. Take your time. If you went a little slower than me and you're still finishing up, I'm gonna wait a second before I move on to the blue one. Give people a chance to. Yeah, yellow does not show up super well on the Zoom by itself, but once I get these other colors on here, it's interesting how I've learned over these years of teaching on Zoom how light is affected on the Zoom recording. I can try turning down my light a little bit here, but shouldn't affect your drawing too much. You'll be able to see my blue one a lot better here. Okay, so the next one, I'm just gonna look to start a little bit in a different spot than the yellow one, but it could be cool if you do it in the exact same spot so it's completely overlapping. So again, I'm just looking at all of the contours, all of the lines on the surface of the form, all of those little wrinkles and folds. And like I said, if you glance down at it, that's fine. I'll admit I did glance at it a couple of times already. I went way smaller with that blue one. I always encourage people to go as slowly as possible with this, but I feel like I'm going a little too fast with this boot. All right, already to the red one. Wait a moment in case anybody's still on the blue one because you want to go slowly. There might be more details on your shoes than mine. There were definitely more details on the Converse with all the laces and the logo. All right, and then now the red one. I'm gonna try to go really slow this time. I'm kind of wishing I'd done both boots now since I went so fast. Or that I used a different yellow, so it would have shown up a little better, but that's pretty good. All right, it's a quick little warm up. It usually goes fast even when we try to go slowly. Would anybody like to hold up their examples of their three blind shoes, and we can share our examples of those? We can spotlight some folks. Let's see. Tina. Oh yeah, really nice. They're fun. Thank you for sharing. Sarah. Oh nice. Look how cute. Yes, I love it. Yeah, that really showed up green too, or maybe you used green on top of the yellow. All right, Barbara. Yeah, those are great. Oh, I can really see the stitching and everything on those tennis shoes. Those running shoes. All right, Jay. Oh, those are snazzy. Yeah. Or Joy, sorry. All right. Anyone else want to share? Carol? Oh, hi, Carol. I know, Carol. Lovely. Yeah, those are great. Nice to see you. And Ava? Oh, yes. Those are really great colors. Those are popping. And Lyle? Yeah, see what I mean? The light sometimes just not our friend. It's hard to catch it. But I can see it somewhat. Oh yeah, yeah, there we go. Oh yeah. Those are some cool boots. I see all the detail there. Those are fun. All right, thanks for sharing. Oh, we got one more. Eileen, you want to hold up your drawing? We got you spotlighted.
I think she had it and then it came down.
Oh, okay.
Let me scroll back through. Do you want to go ahead and re-spotlight yourself, Adrian?
Yeah, I'm looking. I found myself. Okay.
Okay, I was deep in the
All right.
list.
I know it's hard sometimes. Okay, I'm gonna switch back to my tabletop and we'll move on to this next one. So this is the Zoom studies. We're gonna find those photos in our camera roll that we want to zoom in on. And this is the one that's probably going to take the longest out of all of these, although the nature item and the negative space one might take a few more minutes too. But that blind contour, that is a great way to warm up. And I think using a few different colors like that is a great way to make it look cool no matter what you do. Like even if your first drawing turns out not amazing, then it's the lightest color. So then you can overlap it with the next one and you tend to hone those skills a little more as you go. So that's why starting with the lightest color is also a good move because it might not be the best. Although it's interesting how sometimes when I do that, I like love the yellow one and then I don't want to cover it up. But it's fun to overlap them. And then you could keep going and overlap with even more colors. Black is a great color to overlap all three of those with because each, going darker and darker each time. Okay. And it's good to do at least three of those blind contours to warm up too. It really gets your eyes and hand, that muscle memory going. Okay, just looking for my sketching pencil. Disappeared on me. All right, so I'm just gonna draw three boxes here kind of randomly. Let me go back to my photos. I had them all portrait mode when I cropped them, but I can definitely turn them some different directions. So I'm gonna take my playing card here and trace it 3 times. And I'm gonna go some different directions as I trace it. Oh my goodness. My pencil's going rogue on me. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna start with one of these zoomed in photos and just sketch in those blurry shapes that I'm seeing. Uh, And it honestly does not matter if it resembles the thing in the photograph, because this is all about just the exercise here. And we're just gonna be very playful with this prompt and see what happens, see where it goes. So I'm gonna look at my photo and see what colors I might need. And this set of Artist Loft markers has 48 colors, so there's lots of colors to choose from. So I'm gonna get a few different grays here, greens and blues, because that's what I have in my photo. Don't worry about matching your colors perfectly. Just, go with whatever you have. And this set has quite a lot of colors. So if you see 2 or 3 blues, pull out 2 or 3 or 4 blues. But it's good to use as many colors as you can, because that's going to give our little sketch a lot of variety. And then if there's any white, you can just plan ahead to leave that blank paper with your sketch. I'm seeing a couple more greens in mine and maybe a yellow. Green.
Adrian, you're going to be using 3 completely different pictures for this task, right?
I am, yes, those 3 photos that I shared a moment ago. So I've got this one of the car and the parking lot that's zoomed in the background, and then my son's hoodie and my jeans, and then the abandoned car and the bicycle. But on this one, I might zoom in even a little bit more so that because I really don't want anybody to be concerned about making what they're drawing recognizable. I really want this to be an exploration of color and texture, and then problem solving. This is an exercise in problem solving. And I teach a lot of adults, and I've been teaching adults for over 10 years. And I know not everybody is a fan of icebreakers, but so I'm just gonna get started here. I'm gonna start with the lightest color as I keep chatting, and then just plan ahead for what's the white space. I'm gonna bounce around and start filling out where I'm seeing this lightest color, and I'm gonna use a little bit of layering effect with these. These markers can really layer a lot, I've found, without too many issues. They have their limits for sure. But anyway, when I do icebreakers in my in-person classes for everybody in the class to get to know each other, I love to ask about everyone's personal art history. And a lot of times people come to the class, drawing or painting class, and they have not done art in many years. Maybe it's even been, maybe it's their first art class ever, if it's an intro to drawing class or intro to painting class. And so I'll say, if you don't have a personal art history, tell me things that you do that require creative problem solving. And the examples that I use are baking, gardening, making playlists for your friends, picking out your outfit of the day, um, decorating your house, stuff like that. And then people usually come up with a lot of their own. They surprised me one time somebody said they had 6 cats and that required creative problem solving. So anyway, because art is problem solving. So as we start to layer these colors up and draw these unrecognizable things in our photographs, there's going to hit a point. This happened with all 3 of those other examples. This is why this one's probably going to take up the most time, where I was like, what is going on here? This, like, I know it wasn't supposed to look like the thing, but this, I was being very critical of myself and thinking that my drawing did not look nice. I was using some negative, my negative inner critic was talking that day. And I was like, all right, what can I do to pull this together and make it look like something satisfying? And that's where the problem solving came in. And that was also when I decided to just add some embellishments. So I'm going to get these all filled in as much as possible with what I'm actually seeing in the photograph or my interpretation of what I'm seeing in the photograph. But if I hit that awkward spot where it's like, oh, what's going on here? Or regardless, I will, if that happens to me or not, I'll tell you those embellishment tricks that I used on the other ones to make them feel more like something. Another trick that I'm using here is I'm thinking about pointillism. So pointillism in art history is where painters would use one singular dot of a color next to another color. So instead of just coloring solid yellow and green, I'm kind of doing these little dashes or dots, doing more dashes than dots. Uh, and then I'm putting that color down and I'm picking up a different color and adding more dashes in that color. So it's giving it a layering effect and creating some interest. My heater just kicked off here in my studio and now it is quiet. All right, so I'm gonna watch the clock on this one. I want to make sure that we have at least 10 or 15 minutes for those last 2 prompts each. So we have plenty of time here. And if you've got like an area with a solid layer of color, doing one stripe at a time of these markers will give a nice effect. And they do overlap and create little, you can see little lines. But I think once you get, like, you can see a darker line where they overlap. But I feel like that goes away when it all comes together a little bit. I'm gonna show you one of these other examples. So this one was, I was zoomed in on an outdoor, on an electrical, what am I trying to say? You know, an electrical tower outside on a walk, and there were a bunch of birds sitting on the electrical tower. So this is one of the birds, and this was another one of the birds, but I zoomed in really far and it was on a clear blue day. So for the blue sky, I just did one stripe of blue at a time. And I think even though when it's, you first put it on wet, you see those little overlapping marks where they overlap a little bit, I think that tends to not be as distracting as you, if it bothers you, I would just, sometimes when things happen like that, people have a tendency to want to try to fix it or go over it again. And then that just makes it have the thing even more. So just embrace that. That's a side effect of drawing with markers. That's just what happens. But I think it looks fine. I'm trying not to stay on the same color for too long. Really just build up my layers here using those little dashes. Thinking about color layering. Karen's asking if I can show the photo that I'm looking at. Again, this is the photo I'm looking at. So like right now I'm working on this tire here on the car, but it's very blurry, so it's kind of hard to tell that that's a tire, but so instead of just using black on the whole thing, I'm going to get some gray and some blue in there as well. So I'm just looking for other colors that I might use to create some more interest. Because when we just use 1, 2, or 3 colors, it might not be as exciting as using 8 or 9 like this. Yeah, I've got 8 colors here, but then actually I've got 10. I've got 2 more over here on the side I'm using. So once you start to get to the point where all of the colors are starting to meet, I think that's when it might start to feel a little less than satisfying. In painting, the painting process, I feel like all paintings go through a bit of a teenager phase where they're just really awkward and you don't really know what's going on or where it's going. And you have to embrace that and just keep going. So might be hitting that pretty soon here once we get it filled in. Like now that I'm looking even closer, I'm seeing a little bit of purple in here too. So if that happens to you, if you're like, oh, there's another color, any more interesting colors, or if there's just a color that you're like, oh, might be kind of nice if I added this color. Like since I'm using purple, it makes me want to add a little bit of pink because that's a nice accent color. And then since I added that, I'm seeing a little more of it in some other places. So this is the part where you might start to add some embellishments. So one embellishment could be just a color that you feel like really starts to tie it together. Like this fleshy peach color might start to tie together some of these greens and yellows in a way, or just give it a little bit more dimension. It could be gray, could be a nice connecting color, or it could just be your favorite color. If you're like, I just want to add more pink or more purple or whatever it is that's your favorite. So that's one way to start to add some embellishments if you're not satisfied, is to just add some color that makes you happy. And one thing that I did to this other one here that I'll admit was the one that gave me the most trouble. I really didn't like how it was looking. So I just took blue and I just striped over the whole thing in blue. And that's what I mean about the colors can layer very nicely. And even though it did start to bleed through the paper a tiny bit, it was fine. It could handle it. And then I added the embellishments with white. So that could be an option. Like, let me see, I'm going to take this blue and just fill in some areas. Actually, I never filled this in with the actual color that was there. It was yellow. Black. And then there were some white areas that I wanted to leave alone. But if I was just not happy with this, I could just take my blue that I like. It's my favorite color, and just fill it in all the areas where I'm not satisfied with that color instead. Or gray is another good color that can really fuse things together. All right, and then I'm going to take my white gel pen and do some fun little accents, some embellishments. So maybe I could draw a white line around some of the darker colors in my drawing. And it might not show up on certain lighter colors as much as it will on the darker colors, but I could do just some little dots, like some little sparkle dots on top of the darker colors. So that was what I did on this one. I added like this ripple effect with the white gel pen, and I accented a lot of areas of this one. Like I outlined the bird in white, and then I just outlined some things in white just to clean up some of those edges. I'll admit I took quite a bit of time on these, so I might not do all three of these here because I'm just being aware of the time, but let me do one more. I'm going to do the one with these solid colors of red, yellow, and blue. Let me get a brighter yellow here. And also take a little post-it off to the side and test your colors out if you're unsure if they're the right colors to use. Gonna sketch those shapes that I'm seeing in pencil first. And this one should go a little faster since it's so many big blocks of red, yellow, and blue. Forgot which one was, yep, okay. This is the blue I want to use first. So I'm going to go with the lighter blue first. So there was another class a while back called Starting and Keeping a Sketchbook Practice that I know there are several regular folks and some folks who've done some private lessons with me on Zoom who have told me that they really benefited from that class. And Rich has the playlist of uh, lots of my Michael's classes that are listed on YouTube in a playlist that the folks at Michael's put together. So you can search through those and find that class, or just search for it on YouTube. That one was really great because it was just full of all of these sketchbook prompts that could just fill up a sketchbook page. And we used a little sketchbook. So a really small little Artist Loft sketchbook for that one. And that was early on in this series of classes for Michael's that I've been doing for the last 3.5 years. And yeah, so you might check that one out because I think, I've been drawing almost every day for the last 20 years and teaching adults for the last 10 years or so. I taught middle school before that. I've taught high school somewhere in the last, somewhere in there as well. Um, anyway, the thing that eludes a lot of people that want to make more art and they don't is just sitting down and getting started. It's like going to the gym, right? Once we get there, we're having fun. It feels good. We feel better when we're done. But it's the leaving the house and going to the gym, all the procrastination that happens along that path. Um, you know, do I eat before I go or do I just have a protein bar? All those procrastinating things that we do that are really not about the protein bar. It's about um, being impatient for results, right? There's a great book called Art and Fear that talks about that, how all procrastination is fear, and the fear is of making bad art, and the only bad art is the art you're not making, and all the art that you make is just one drop in the bucket, one bit of practice on that path and that journey that we're on to make more art. And the muse exists, but it has to find you working. That's a Picasso quote. There's a great quote about that by David Hockney as well, that the difference between professional artists and amateurs is that professional artists know that they don't have to wait for inspiration. They just get to work. So if you're like, what's the purpose of an activity like this? It's like, well, might turn out satisfying. It might not, but it gets you working. It gets you problem solving. It gets your hand moving. It gets your brain to detach from all of the stressors of the day. And that's what we really want out of that sketchbook practice, right? That's the thing that's going to make us walk away afterwards, like when we leave the gym and feel like, oh, I did something. I feel better. Or Um, now I'm trying to remember if this is also in the David Hockney quote, because it's a long quote about it. But he says, like, something occurs to you and then something else occurs to you as you're working, and you think, oh, I've got another idea about something else I might want to do, or this reminds me of this idea, or I really just like how these materials are working together. I really like these colors. Maybe I want to paint this little study. All right, yeah, that one went much faster. Then now I can take my white gel pen and add some of these accents.
Question from one of our attendees.
Okay.
Do you think that the Posca markers are good for these types of drawings?
Oh yeah, definitely. And Artist Loft has a line of their version of the Posca markers as well that I'm hoping to get my hands on soon so we can do some of those in a future class. I think if we wait for this marker to dry a little more, then the white gel pen will show up better because right now it is just not showing up as like it is on these. So it must be that it's still a little wet. Yeah, because that looks way better. So I'm going to give that a second to dry before I keep trying to add embellishments. But maybe I will go ahead and move on from this prompt to the next one, and maybe I'll come back to it if we have some time. I think I've made my point here with the purpose behind this one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. But 3 is a good number just to have like a nice, in case you don't love one or two of those. 3 is always a nice balanced number to have a good little satisfying composition in your sketchbook. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the negative space in your pocket prompt here. And I'm going to trace my little business card again. I'm going to do the next one on this same page. So okay, so I'm using this photo of my keys and pen and notebook. And yeah, this is prompt number 3. So when we talk about negative space, we are just we're not going to actually draw these objects. So we don't need to really worry about the 3 dimensions of the pen or the 3 dimensions of the keys or the contours or any of that stuff. We are going to just be looking at the space in between all of the positive space. So the positive space are the items, the keys, the key ring, the pen, the notebook. And then the negative space is all of the countertop in between. So there's this little space in between the edge of the photograph and the side of the keys, and then the key ring. And then there's this little triangular space in between the keys and the key ring, etc. And then there's like a little space in between the 2 key rings. So those are the shapes that I drew. And again, we're not looking for perfection here. We're just looking for some problem solving, getting that brain uh that brain power going in the direction of drawing and creative problem solving here. So we're just going to draw those shapes, and then you can choose to either fill in the positive space or the negative space. So if there were some mistakes lines that happened, then you probably want to fill in wherever the mistake lines happen. So if those end up happening in the negative space, then I would fill in the negative space solid black. And if those happen inside of the positive space, then fill in the positive space. So we'll see what happens as I'm sketching here. And I'm going to just go for it with my pen. I'm going to not draw it in pencil first. 1, because you're not going to be able to see my pencil lines anyway. And 2, so that I can encourage you to not worry about mistakes as they happen here. And you can see that I did that on this one as well, because I accidentally got too thick on this line. So I made the side of the box a little thicker. Get some stuff out of my way here. just realized I was so anxious to move on from that last one that I didn't ask people to share, but when we're done with this one, I'll ask y'all to share about this one and the last one if you have any examples from that last one that you want to hold up as well. Okay, so see, something wonky just happened there. I'm just gonna fix it, and then I'm probably gonna end up filling in the positive space again. So if you can, as you're doing this, try not to draw the items. Try to just draw the space in between the items. So that's where, you know, some wonkiness might occur as you're challenging your brain to do that. But exercises like this that challenge our brain power in some way. Look, that's how we know we're learning. If it was easy, then we wouldn't be learning.
Judith's wondering, what about the shadows when you're doing these negative space type sketches?
It is up to you if you want to include them or not. I am including them in this one, but it seems like I didn't on the last one, although, you know, the thickness or the thinness of the objects is a little inconsequential since we're mostly just looking for the negative space shape. So if you're gonna fill it all in, then you're just lumping it all together anyway. So it's really up to you. All right, I didn't quite get the notebook in there this time. And then I'm just going to take my brush pen. I think last time I maybe did use the black in the Artist Loft marker set, but since I have all my Artist Loft pens here and I've got my brush pen, I'm just going to do that. Although that one's not so. Here we go. Oh, that one's not amazing either. Hang on. I've got a whole bucket of these. Let me get my iPad out of here. It tends to mess up the zoom lighting. So yeah, I like using a brush pen for this exercise. There was a class also a long time ago in this series where we did a negative space drawing of a plant, and I included a reference photo of, it was actually the shadow of a plant on a wall in the morning light. It was very dramatic lighting, and we created a border so that we had a nice frame to work with instead of using a little playing card like this. So we had a nice outer frame to frame it, and then filled in the positive space of the plant shadows. It was nice. There were a lot of really nice examples that came out of that one. I recall we used a brush pen because a brush pen can easily and quickly fill in a lot of dark space. And in last year's 24 sketchbook prompts to start 2024, we also did negative and positive space sketch. Did a coffee mug and the shadow falling across a a table, and it was fun because we did both. We filled in both the negative space and the positive space. We did two of those. And I thought that had a really neat effect as well. So you can do this with just about anything. When I taught high school, I remember I brought a bunch of broken necklaces once up to my classroom and just piled them around the tables and had the students draw all the interesting shapes and spaces inside of the broken necklaces. Don't ask me why I had so many broken necklaces. There's a story there. Aw, Jennifer said Linda played with them. They got all tangled up. It was like a lot of really old jewelry, and I was wanting this is how impatient and impulsive I am. I was wanting my favorite necklace that was tangled up in them, and they were very inexpensive, some of them. Like I pulled the nicer ones out before I did this. And then I took some needle nose pliers, so just started breaking into them to try to get my favorite necklace out. That's what happened. It was like a bunch of costume jewelry and stuff that was very cheap. Anyway, okay. Do a little outline. But I think everybody has probably an interesting key ring. Some people have some really busy key rings, and that'll create a lot of negative space when you pile those on the table. So keys are a good, the contents of your purse or your makeup bag probably has a lot of interesting shapes. Another common one in art class is to take a stool and put it up on a table and have students draw the negative space inside of the stool. And that one is very challenging because trying to make it still look like a stool is very tricky, or a chair. So if you want a real challenge with some negative space, try to draw a chair on a table, but only the negative space. And try to still make it look like a chair. Okay, so that was prompt number 3, the negative space in your pocket. And now we're going to move on to, I think it's number 12 on the list. So we're going to jump down to the limited color nature study. So this is the one where we are going to take a item from nature and we're going to illustrate it again in a nice little box frame like this. And we're going to use 2 to 3 colors or multiple shades of the same color. So this Artist Loft set of 48 colors has a lot of different colors to choose from. And I have just been stuck on pink and purple lately. Anytime I'm trying to do a limited color study, I even did a Michael's class a while back where we focused on light, did some light studies using gouache, and I did pink, purple, and blue. I'm just going to pull out all of my pinks and purples, and then this fleshy peach color is a really nice accent color to use. And I'll do a little test on my post-it note here to see how these colors look to get started. So it's up to you. And then if you want to grab a leaf or a pine cone or an acorn or a pecan, something from nature. All right, let's get all my pinks and purples out here. And I may or may not use all of them. Doesn't hurt to have options. All right, so let me see which ones of these like the best and which one is the lightest. So that one's the lightest. They are not labeled, but it's the one that's got almost like a pearl lid on it. And it's the lightest, and that one's a little grayish. So the trick is keeping track of these after you test the color because they don't necessarily look exactly like their lids. It's a good one. I really only need 2 or 3 purples. Maybe not that one. And not that one either. That's a little too blue. I want that purple. So yeah, choose your colors. I would say at least, just like with the Zoom studies that we did, at least 4 or 5 shades of each color. Or if it's one color, 4 or 5 shades of that one color. You want the full value scale. So we want a super dark color and we want a super light color. So at least 4 or 5 so that you can get something that's going to be nice and light in there, and then something that's going to be a medium shade and then a dark. And then I just realized I moved on without asking you all to share out about those last 2 examples. I started looking at the time and I know this one's going to take up a lot of time. So let's just go ahead and get through this one and then I'll ask y'all to share out. I was thinking we might have a little bit more time in between all of these than we do. Okay, so I've got some light pinks and I've got some dark purples, but I want a couple more medium colors. So I really like this one. I don't really need that. Maybe that one too. And then this fleshy color. Maybe, well, no, yeah, I've got that pink that I used as an accent on the fleshy color. Okay, and then I do have my photograph of my big acorn that I'm going to use here because I don't have a lot of contrasting light on my table here. I'm just going to sketch my acorn really quickly, and I'm definitely going to get that shadow in there. And then I'm going to go from light to dark. With my pinks and my purples. So you might not be able to see my sketch in pencil, but I will start adding color very quickly and you'll be able to see my drawing pretty soon. Just be patient with me. Just adding all those little textured moments. And I'm looking at the contours of my form here. This is probably the first time, other than our blind contour today, that we're really looking at a little bit more intermediate drawing skills here. So just the three-dimensional lines that describe the form. And I've had a lot of classes on that. You can search in that playlist if that's a new concept for you. On for trying to remember the name of the class. It is drawing contour lines in 3D forms, I believe. Okay, so that's definitely what I'm going to keep in mind as I'm drawing my acorn. But first, I'm going to start with that background. And I'm just going, oh, I see Rich just dropped it in the chat. Learn to draw 3D forms, understanding contour lines was the name of that class. So I'm going to start with this light pink, and I'm just going to do a solid light pink all the way across the background. So this could be nice if you were using, you know, yellow, orange, and reds. You would start with the yellow, or maybe yellow and greens. There's lots of really fun greens and yellows in this 48 piece set of markers. So whatever your lightest color is would be great for the background, and then we can make that dramatic shadow. So I'm using this light pink, and I'm just gonna do one stripe at a time. Little hatching lines all the way across the background, and where they overlap, you will get a little darker line, which doesn't bother me. I think it looks kind of cool. Also, this is very meditative. I could do this all day. There was a prompt in that starting and keeping a sketchbook class that I mentioned that we did a while back early on in this series. That was a big crowd pleaser where we just drew lines across a page and did that all the way down the page. It's very meditative. It can, with a pen, and it can fill up a sketchbook page and be very satisfying. And it's really good muscle memory practice as well. I'm just going back up and filling in some of those little gaps that happen when you get into that flow of doing that. Sometimes they don't all start at the same spot. All right. I think that looks nice just like that. We're going to keep going. I'm going to do my peach color. For the lighter parts of the acorn. And I'm still kind of building up using those little hatching marks or dashes, and I'm following the curve, the three-dimensional curve that I'm seeing. And I'm gonna add some pink accents. I might have to retest my pink. And I'm going to keep going with this pink and add it down here as the lighter parts, and then I'll go over it with purple. So I'm kind of radiating out so I can follow those contours. So in that online sketchbook meetup that I have planned, the independent class that I'll be teaching on Zoom, starting later this month on Saturday mornings, I provided reference photos or I will be providing reference photos for all of those. After you sign up, I'll send those to you along with the Zoom link, and we'll break down each one of those subjects and use different mediums. And it's all listed there in my online shop if you're interested in joining me for that. And I plan to really give you some fun and interesting ways to fill up a sketchbook page. That will be really satisfying. I really am excited about all the subjects that I picked for those. I don't know why I started just coloring that there. I was just seeing what that color looked like when I overlapped it. So just layering this purple over the pink. Then I am going to use a little bit of pen, just black pen on top of this when I'm done to give it even more contrast. Got about 10 minutes left, which is plenty of time. And for the shadow, I'm just filling that in with a nice diagonal hatching line. Just to get it to feel a little separate from the acorn. And you can do another layer of these markers. That's another way to get rid of those stripes if you don't like them. I think with a darker color like this, it's nice to do a second layer. All right, that looks pretty good. Let me add a little bit more. So yeah, I didn't end up using all of those pinks. I just wanted to see which ones, since these markers are not labeled and they're some of them look like they're going to be similar and then they're very different. Okay, and then let's see. I thought maybe I added some pen, but now the closer I'm looking, I think maybe I flipped over I used the fine tip on here actually with the purple to add a little bit more texture. So that could be fun. It's the first time I'm using the fine tip so far tonight, but yeah, these markers have nice fine tip. Maybe you've been using those for some of the other prompts. Okay. Like, who wore it better? Maybe I added a little bit more of an orangey pink on there, but I think that's pretty good. Okay, I'd love to see y'all's examples. We've got some time left here, so we can hold up any of the prompts that we did tonight. If you've got an example of this one you'd like to share, or the negative space, or the Zoom studies, or all three. Oh, there's Laura. Hi, Laura. Yes, that's lovely. We've got some similar keychains. Oh, yeah, look at that. That looks really nice. Oh, you did the same zoomed in ones as me. Nice. Those look great. Thank you for sharing. Those are so fun. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's zoomed in on your dog's face. That's fun. Oh, look at that feather. Yeah, that's beautiful. Really nice. Oh, there's Arthur. Nice to see you, Arthur. Oh, I just love your sketchy style. Yeah. Oh, you filled in the negative space on that one. Yeah, that looks great. And those zoomed in studies are really fun. I love the texture on those. Thank you. And here's Karen. Oh, that has such a nice, what am I trying to say? That has such a nice stylized quality to it, the way those are all arranged. That looks so lovely. Yeah, really nice textures going on there. Beautiful. And this is Deb. Oh, look at that beautiful pink leaf. Oh, and look at all the details and textures there on the left on your negative space and your zoomed in studies. Really nice. And here's Barbara. Oh, that's fun. Oh, I love the weight that you captured in that your negative space study. I really feel the gesture of those items stacked on top of each other. Yeah. All right, Sarah. Yes, those are really great. I love the layering of colors that you've got. And even the one that's a little unfinished is really nice. Oh my gosh, Diana, you always impress me. Yes, beautiful. Those are just so striking. Your line quality is gorgeous. Thank you. Christina, oh, that's so good too. I love the stylized quality of the acorn. Is that a crystal on the left there, on the zoomed in one? It feels like a crystal. Or peacock feathers, maybe. You'll have to type it in the chat. Those were really nice. This is Anne. Oh, that's really nice texture on that flower. Oh, it was a flower. Okay. Beautiful. Thank you. Buttons. What a cute handle. I love it. Oh, that's really nice. Negative space study. Those are some really interesting forms. Oh, I like how you went outside of your thumbnail frame with those colors. That's really interesting. This is John. Oh, those are great yellows and greens that you combined. And that one on the top right and the one on the top left is also really nice. That's a lovely blue pattern. It's Jordan. Oh, it feels like a mosaic tile in your negative space study. Those are really great. And your one on the bottom, those are really nice pinks and purples and yellows. Yeah, that fleshy color is such a great accent color for that color scheme. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's Juan. Juan, I haven't seen you in so long. I missed you. Look at that. I love it. Yeah. Oh, you really captured some good depth on that. Oh my gosh, look at those textures. Yes. You never disappoint. Beautiful. So fiery. Those oranges and reds. Very, very alive. Okay. Well, it's 7:28. So we got 2 minutes left here. Let me see if we've got any comments in the chat I could respond to real quick. Rich is so good about replying to everything.
I don't think we have any questions this class.
Okay. Well, yeah, the next class is the Abstract Studies in Gouache and Mixed Media. Thank you, Jennifer. On the 15th, next Wednesday. And then on the 22nd, it's the Drawing Teeth class. And I'm really excited about both of those because I love doing abstract studies, and drawing teeth is so fun because it's actually what we're not going to draw on the teeth that's going to make the teeth look like teeth. There's a trick to drawing teeth, but I'm not going to give it away so that you have to sign up for the drawing teeth class. All right, thank y'all so much. I really loved all of your examples tonight, and I'm excited. Please feel free to share any other of these sketchbook prompts with me that you complete. You can email them to me or post them on Instagram and tag me at AD Hodge, or you can tag Learn with Michaels as well, and maybe they'll even share it on their Instagram page, which is always fun. All right, thank y'all so much, and hope to see you in the next class. Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Y'all have a great night.